So today we're diving into Jean Arnaud.
Jean Arnaud.
Yeah, and you've given us a lot to work with here.
I did.
We've got interviews, articles, I think even a snippet from an art manifesto.
Yes.
So it seems like you want to go beyond just like the biographical details. You want to get into like how this really interesting mix of a background shapes his art and shapes his outlook.
And shapes his outlook on the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes him so interesting,
Yeah.
is that there's this constant kind of tension in his work between the structured world that he comes from and his need to kind of like break free from that structure.
Right.
It's almost like he embodies that classic idea of like order and chaos, but applied to art and technology.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so let's start with the order side of things then.
Okay.
A lot of the sources mention that he had a very classical education.
He did. His parents were both professors of ancient history. So yeah, you can imagine growing up surrounded by like philosophy, art, literature.
Soaking it all up.
Yeah, and he even mentions that ideal of mens sana in corpore sano, you know, a healthy mind and a healthy body,
Right.
which I think really captures that classical upbringing.
Yeah, it sounds like he was almost being groomed for a life of the mind.
Yeah.
You know, intellectual pursuits.
Of intellectual pursuits, yeah.
But something tells me he didn't exactly follow that straight and narrow path.
Not at all.
Uh-huh.
This is where the chaos comes in.
Okay.
He absolutely hated the rigidity of traditional schooling.
Interesting.
He really found his outlet in hardcore metal.
Okay.
Bands like Madball and Hatebreed.
Wow, hardcore.
Yeah, and he even got into hip-hop and graffiti, which I think really speaks to that like rebellious spirit.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because it's not just a rejection of tradition.
Right.
It's almost like he's taking elements from these seemingly opposite worlds and blending them together.
Yeah.
So he's got this classical foundation, but then he's layering on these raw, expressive forms of art.
Exactly, and I think that's really key to understanding his whole approach.
Okay.
It's not about picking one or the other.
Right.
It's about finding a way to make them work together.
Uh-huh.
He talks about the need for what he calls these multiple access points to the world in order to grow as a person and as an artist.
Like different lenses to view things through?
Exactly. He compares it to an inverted T.
Oh, yeah.
So like expanding horizontally before you can kind of build vertically.
I love that visual.
Yeah.
So you expand your horizons first through all these diverse experiences.
Right. The punk scene travel, you know, all of that.
Living life.
And then he uses that as the foundation to really dive deep into his intellectual pursuits.
I see. So it's that unique blend that then starts to inform his view of art itself. And he has a very specific way of talking about it.
Yeah.
He calls it an ontological quest.
Yeah, it's a journey of the soul.
Which, you know, it sounds a little abstract at first.
It does.
But what I think he's getting at is this idea that art is about more than just aesthetics.
It is. It's about grappling with like the big questions, the complexities of life.
Right.
You know, it's a process of searching for meaning.
For truth.
For something bigger than ourselves.
And he's very critical of what he sees as superficial art.
Yeah.
Things that are more about shock value than substance.
Exactly.
I'm thinking of that banana tape to a wall example that he brought up.
Oh, yeah, the classic banana tape to a wall.
Yeah.
He sees that kind of minimalist art as lacking the depth and symbolism that he's looking for.
Right. He wants art that offers a journey.
A journey.
A transport, a sense of vertigo even.
A vertigo, yeah.
He wants it to resonate with the observer, to provoke some kind of emotion-questioning reflection.
Yeah, you can even see parallels with his musical influences there.
Oh, interesting.
Like bands like The Doors' Pink Floyd Tool.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
There's this richness, this complexity.
Depth.
Yeah, that he's drawn to.
So we've got this guy with a foot in both worlds.
Yeah.
The classical and the rebellious.
Right.
And then enter technology.
Technology.
And what's so fascinating is that he embraces things like VR and AI. Not as replacements for traditional art forms, but as tools to enhance them.
Exactly, and that's really important to understand.
Right.
He's not saying throw out your paintbrushes and chisels.
Yeah.
He's saying let's see how these new tools can help us explore new frontiers of artistic expression.
It's almost like he's taking a page from his own playbook, blending these seemingly opposite worlds.
Right,
You know, he's got this deep appreciation for traditional art forms.
Yeah.
But he's also excited about the possibilities that technology opens up.
And what's interesting is that he started experimenting with technology early on.
Did he?
Yeah, he talks about using Pro Tools to compose drum parts, even though he couldn't actually play the drums.
Interesting.
So this idea of using technology to augment his creative process has been with him for a long time.
It's not just about replacing human skill with automation.
Right.
It's about using tech to kind of expand the range of what's possible.
Yeah.
To push those creative boundaries even further.
Exactly. He even talks about AI as a sort of assistant that can help him explore ideas more quickly to generate those initial sketches and refine his concepts.
But the key here is he's always the one guiding the process.
Yes, he is.
He's not letting the machine dictate the outcome.
He's using AI to amplify his own vision, not to replace it.
I love that. Amplify his own vision.
Yeah, and he's even open to incorporating what he calls the hallucinations of the machine.
Hallucinations.
Those unexpected elements that the AI suggests, which I think speaks to his willingness to experiment and embrace the unknown.
To let go a little bit and see where the process takes him.
And that's what sets him apart, I think. Yeah. It's that constant tension between control and surrender, between the structured and the spontaneous.
Yeah, he's not afraid to kind of dance with the technology.
It is a dance.
Yeah, not just use it as a tool, but it's a partnership, a collaboration.
A collaboration, exactly. It's a collaboration, exactly.
And it feels like this approach really comes to life in his piece, Prometheus in the Metaverse.
Yes, Prometheus in the Metaverse.
That was one you really wanted to understand.
I did.
What makes that a standout piece in Arnaud's work?
I think for me, it just embodies so much of what we've been talking about. This incredible blend of like classical mythology, cutting edge technology, and this really deep philosophical exploration of like what it means to be human in the digital age, you know?
Yeah. A few of the sources mention this word palimpsestic.
Palimpsestic.
Could you unpack that for me a little bit?
Yeah.
I have to admit that one went over my head.
So a palimpsest is like an ancient manuscript. Where the original text has been scraped away and overwritten with something new.
Right.
But often traces of the original writing still remain. So you get these layers of meaning.
So are you saying like his digital art is like that?
It is.
That there are these hidden layers, these echoes of the past that we need to uncover.
Exactly. He talks about embedding like hidden books, QR codes, even audio recordings within his digital pieces.
Wow.
So it's not just about what you see on the surface. It's about like actively engaging with the work, you know?
Digging deeper.
Digging deeper.
Like an archaeologist almost.
Yeah, and I think that's deliberate. Like
yeah.
He wants to challenge that passive way that we often consume art. He wants us to be active participants to co-create the experience with him.
So how does that play out in Prometheus in the Metaverse?
Well, on one level, you have this very visually stunning depiction of the Prometheus myth, but set within this VR environment.
Right.
But as you explore the piece, you start to uncover these hidden layers, references to philosophy, literature, even current events.
It's like he's weaving together these different threads of human history and culture.
Yes.
And then inviting us to explore that tapestry.
And the metaverse setting, I think, is really key there. Because it allows him to create this truly immersive experience where the boundaries between the viewer and the art start to blur.
And he even talks about wanting people to like recreate the piece.
He does.
To add their own interpretations.
Yes, to make it their own.
Which is a radical departure from the traditional idea of art as something static.
Yes.
Something to be admired from afar.
That's a very dynamic, participatory view of art.
Yeah, it's about creating a space for dialogue, for collaboration.
Exactly.
For ongoing evolution.
And this is where I think his concept of chaosism comes in.
Chaosism.
It's not just a catchy term.
Right.
It's a whole philosophy that underpins his work.
So how does that work?
Well, he sees chaos not as something negative. But as the source of all creation, all possibility.
Interesting.
And he believes that art should embrace this complexity, this constant flux, rather than trying to impose order on it.
It's like he's saying, let go of the need to control everything. Let the art take on a life of its own.
Yeah, and this ties into his vision of what he calls the digital renaissance.
The digital renaissance.
He sees this new era as like a time of immense creative potential where technology allows us to kind of break free from the limitations of traditional art forms and explore these entirely new modes of expression.
It's interesting because he sees parallels between this moment in time and the Renaissance period.
He does.
With artists like Michelangelo and Da Vinci.
Yeah.
Who were masters of multiple disciplines.
Exactly. They weren't just painters or sculptors.
Yeah.
They were architects, engineers, inventors.
Yeah.
They embodied this ideal of the Renaissance man.
Right. Someone who was curious about everything, who could move seamlessly between different fields of knowledge.
And Arno believes that technology can help us tap into that same kind of versatility.
Okay.
To become multi-experts ourselves.
It's almost like he's saying we don't have to choose between being an artist or a scientist or a technologist.
Yeah.
We can be all of those things.
And more.
And more.
And that's a really empowering message, I think. It's about breaking down those artificial barriers.
Right.
And embracing the full spectrum of human potential.
But there's also this sense of responsibility that comes with all of this, right?
Absolutely.
He's not like blindly optimistic about technology.
No.
He recognizes that there are risks involved.
He does. He's very clear that AI is a tool.
Right.
Like any tool, it can be used for good or for evil.
For good or for evil.
And he emphasizes that it's ultimately up to humans to guide its development.
To steer the ship.
Yeah, to ensure that it's used in a way that benefits humanity as a whole.
He even warns against abandoning our responsibility.
Right.
Saying that AI is just a tool. It is up to humans to take high responsibility for their existence, for the existence of others, the course of life, and the shape the world can, or rather must, take.
It's a call to action. A reminder that we can't just sit back and let technology shape our future.
Right.
We need to be actively involved.
Yeah.
To be mindful of the choices we make. To ensure that we're using these powerful tools wisely and ethically.
It's like he's saying the future is not something that happens to us.
Right.
It's something we create.
We create it, exactly.
And his work really reflects that philosophy.
I think so.
It's not just about creating beautiful or thought-provoking art.
Yeah.
It's about using art as a way to engage with these big questions, to explore what it means to be human in this rapidly changing world.
Absolutely.
And that brings us back to you.
To me.
What stands out to you most about Jean Arnaud's story?
What resonates with me?
What resonates with you?
What stands out to me the most is this idea that the future isn't predetermined.
Yeah.
You know, like we have a hand in shaping it, especially when it comes to technology.
Yeah, and I like how he's not afraid of AI.
Right.
He's excited about it.
He is. He's excited by its potential.
Yeah, but he's also cautious.
So cautious, yeah. And I appreciate that he demystifies it a bit.
How so?
Well, like when he calls AI his assistant.
Right.
That helps me to see it less as a threat and more as like a tool that we can control and direct.
Right. It's like he's saying, don't hand over the reins.
Don't hand over the reins.
Learn to drive this thing.
Exactly.
It's a much more empowering perspective.
It is.
It makes me think about how we can all be more proactive in shaping how technology evolves.
Yeah.
Not just in art, but in all aspects of life.
And he's not just an artist tinkering in his studio. You know, he's running a tech incubator. He's working with startups.
Yeah, it seems like this community aspect is really important to him.
It is. It goes back to that idea of collective intelligence. It's not about the lone genius.
Right.
It's about bringing people together, fostering that collaboration.
And imagine what that could look like in the art world.
Oh, yeah.
Like artists from different countries.
Different backgrounds, different styles.
All collaborating on projects.
Yeah.
Using AI as a bridge.
Exactly.
I mean, it could break down so many barriers.
It could.
It's a beautiful vision.
It is.
This world where creativity is truly democratized. And anyone can participate in shaping this digital renaissance.
The digital renaissance.
But like you said earlier, there's a responsibility that comes with that power.
There is, and he's adamant about that. He warns that just because we can do something with AI doesn't mean we should.
Doesn't mean we should.
You know, we have to consider the ethical implications, the impact on humanity as a whole.
He's pushing us to develop this humanistic spirit.
That humanistic spirit.
Alongside all the technological advancements.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just create cool new things.
Right.
We have to ask ourselves,
The big question.
what kind of world are we building?
What kind of world are we building?
What are the values that we want to embed in this new era?
And that's a question I think each of us has to grapple with. What resonates with me the most is that he doesn't offer any easy answers.
Right.
He just presents us with possibilities.
Possibilities.
He challenges us to think critically.
Yeah.
And ultimately, he leaves us to define what this digital renaissance will look like.
So for you listening,
If you're listening.
if Jean Arnaud's story has sparked something in you,
Yeah.
Don't let it fade.
Keep that spark alive.
What creative possibilities are you excited to explore in this new era?
What role do you want to play in shaping the future of art and technology?
Keep diving deep.